It is the Green Room podcast, of course, number 3, number 4. I've lost track now. Well, we have a mother and daughter combo here today. Oh, what a first, I say. So we have Emma Callin and we have Carole Bairstow, both well known from the Gaiety stage from years going back. Well, we were just saying, Carole, when we were 1960...
1967, Noel Coward's Hay Fever.
Wow.
Where I played sister to Wiley McDowell, God bless Wiley. We still miss him.
We do indeed. We do.
Wiley and I played brother and sister, yeah.
And was that your first time on stage altogether?
That was my first time. I never, ever had any intention of going on the stage until through social channels I happened to meet a lady who was a member of the Service Players, and she persuaded me, against my will, to go to the weekly play readings that they used to have at that time. They had a club room on Victoria Road somewhere. And I went to one just to keep her happy, to play readings. And before I knew, I was cast going to rehearsals, which was a bit frightening.
They'd got you by then.
A bit frightening, they'd got me. And the one thing that I was very grateful for that first night when the curtain went up was that we still had footlights, because I couldn't see.
Oh, really? Yeah. Proper footlights.
Yeah, real live footlights. Yep, all along the front edge of the stage. And of course, the spots were on the front edge of the circle. They weren't where they are now. They were actually fixed to the front edge of the circle. So all the lights just blinded me, and that was fine. I forgot everybody was there.
What about you, Em? You've been on the stage for, 6 months? Something like that?
Yeah, I'm only 21. Mother put me on the stage.
Put your daughter on the stage.
Mrs. Worthington.
Talking about Noel Coward, that was it.
In about 1980.
Something like that.
Pink string, what?
Pink string and ceiling marks.
That's it, pink string. Was it that one?
No, it wasn't. It was
Happiest Days of Our Lives.
Happiest Days. That was the one.
Me and Emma Callin and Richard Cowan.
Richard Cowan, yeah.
So I'd have been 4 or 5, and we came on at the end of Act 1. I don't know what the joke was, but we were the punchline. We didn't say anything. We just ran on, and then the audience went into rapturous laughter and applause, and the curtain came in. And then we went home. We were the best thing at the show.
She says modestly.
She hasn't changed.
And that was the Service Players. And it's because of the Service Players that I then joined Christine Wilde, because it's when you did Panto, when we did it.
Well, that was when we all met Howard for the first time, wasn't it?
Would be. We were looking at that 1983, 84, 83. Yeah, 40 years this year. That's a bit terrifying, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I used to come along to rehearsals with Mum all the time. I remember when the theatre wasn't heated unless it was a show, so rehearsals were always freezing cold. But everyone was always lovely to me, as actors are. And so I remember I was already going to ballroom dancing lessons, so I knew I wanted to dance. But then when I watched what Christine was doing and the girls in Dick Whittington, I said to Mum, that's the sort of dancing I want to do. And so I joined Christine Wilde after that.
Wow. And what was it for you then that sort of kept you going over the years? Was it the acting? Was it the dancing? Did you like the straight stuff? Did you like doing the musicals?
Really, I mean, I've kept going. I think since I moved back home in 2001, I have done more musicals than anything else, and people would probably know me more for that. But until I went away to university, obviously I did the dancing, but I was more involved in plays and drama, and that's my first love. And I wish I did more of that, but I haven't found the right opportunities. The last thing I did with the Service Players was Vicar of Dibley, which was 2017, so that's a while ago now, and thoroughly enjoyed it. So, I would like to do more straight drama, but I've just I did get into the rut of musicals, but then children came along. And that's why I've been assistant director on more things since then, because I don't have to do a whole week's run. It's still busy. It's still a really busy rehearsal schedule, but it's slightly more flexible with the children then.
Try and fit in learning lines.
Yeah. And none of us are getting any younger.
That's why I put it up. I tried to retire. in, about 19.
And maybe you said you were going to retire. It never worked.
Yeah, 2004, I think. I tried to retire. Well, I did retire for a few years, and then a certain gentleman who's sitting in the other studio here.
Oh.
Yes.
Mr. Brindley, for those who want to know.
Boy wonder. Dragged me out of retirement in 2014 to play Mrs. Richards, my dear, in Fawlty Towers.
It was very good too. It was very good. So you were typecast for that, I thought.
No, I thought the better one, actually, was when he cast me as Lady Whiteadder in Blackadder II, because I got to slap you round the face twice at every rehearsal.
She'd been waiting years for that.
I didn't want to say anything, but I felt there was a little bit of a little bit of sting behind it. It has to be said. So what's kept you going then, Carole? You must have enjoyed it, even though to come out of retirement. You must.
I did. I was really getting into the swing of it at the beginning when I first started, because I was in the first 3 years that I was with the Service Players. I was in 5 different plays, but I then married Emma's dad, and we went to live in Leeds. And so for 10 years, I just wasn't here. We came back the end of the 70s, wasn't it?
Apparently.
Like you were 2. You were 2 at the time. And I was a one-parent family virtually, so anything, that took me out of the home or out of work, because I had to work, I didn't have time for anything else. But I was in the shop one day, and a certain David Higgins walked in and said, "Oh, I'd heard you're back," and just shoved a script in my hand. That was for Cat on the Fiddle, which is in 1980. And that sort of started it going again. So then I sort of got involved to a certain degree. I was either on stage or backstage, or more often than not stuck in the prompt corner, which is a thankless task. My heart goes out to every person who has ever had to be.
It's nerve-wracking in the corner, doing
Yes. Oh, one. I completely gave up on it in one production called A Bed Full of Foreigners. And your brother Christopher was on stage.
I was about to say, you're not mentioning any particular individuals who might have skipped a few pages. And
And Chris was on stage with Wiley McDowell, and the line was, they were looking at a leaking radiator, and Wiley said, "I am plugging leak with chewing gum." And that was fine. He said the line in the right place, and then they skipped 3 pages. But they brought themselves back, and Wiley said, "I am plugging leak with chewing gum." And they skipped the same 3 pages, and they finally brought it back, and Wiley said, "For the 3rd time, I am plugging leak with chewing gum," at which point there was a loud bang in the propped corner, because I threw the script on the floor and left them to it.
I have to say, my experience, I've only done prompt corner once, and that was Blackadder, and it was not long after I'd had my 2nd child. And I found it quite comforting sitting in the quiet, dark corner, listening to the ropes and pulleys and the noises of the theatre. And I only had to give 1 prompt, and that was to Nigel Harrison. And I enjoyed it.
See, I found it. Have you done prompt ever, John?
Once, I always found it. But again, it's because you get given the script maybe a week before. And it's a bit like, I've always found it's the same as trying to do anything backstage. I always found it horrendous, because I did it for Blackadder the 2nd. Was why I was helping backstage the first time I'd really done backstage, and I just said, "Right, Doc, what do you want me to do?" and didn't ask any questions. Right, you want me to do that? Fine, I'll do it. Because it was I found more nerve-wracking doing that than actually being on the stage, where you're more familiar for weeks and weeks.
Yeah,
with the production.
I was the same. I think particularly with prompting, because it's that horrible feeling that if you prompt too early, then the actors or actresses get really annoyed with you, because you think they were just doing a dramatic pause and you've basically ruined it by shouting a prompt across the stage. And then of course if you go the other way and they are actually grasping and you don't pick up quickly enough, then the whole thing grinds to a Nimmy's halt, and it's and I just think you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, to a degree. But I
had one actor who actually came to me at the beginning of one performance, opening night, and came to me and said, "Don't want to prompt to me. I haven't got my hearing aids in. I can't hear you. I'll get myself out of it." "Okay, Tony, fine."
What about the directing side? You mentioned directing.
I don't mind being assistant director. I don't feel I have enough creative flair to be a director, and I've been asked before. And there are some plays that I feel maybe I would have an idea around getting through it, but I feel like I would never be able to fulfill what I really want, just because I don't know. I've never tried it. Maybe I should give it a go one day, but I prefer somebody else setting it all. I can polish it. I can do that. I can run rehearsals. I can do whatever the director needs me to do. But I prefer being in that position than being in full control.
One of the things that we've been asking everyone is part of this series is obviously to talk to the leading lights of Manx drama and their thoughts and experiences of their time on and off the stage. But particularly with relation to things like the Easter Festival of Plays and the One Act Festival, which is, you mentioned about doing direction and helping. It's been the test bed, if you want to think of it that way, for people who've never directed before, to have that first opportunity to do so. Do you have any particular memories of the One Act Festival and different service players productions that have gone into that over the years?
I don't have a memory of particular productions. I do have a memory of one that Howard was in. And I remember it I was about to say, I remember it really stuck with me, but I can't remember what it was. I used it in my job interview when I interviewed to be arts development manager, and they asked, one of the questions was about a piece of theatre that had really stuck with me. And there was you and somebody else, and you were sat on a park bench at the Erin Arts Centre. I don't know what it was.
I do.
Oh, what was it?
It was Seascape by Tony Rushfuss, who has got a play in this year's festival. The service players are doing it. It's called Lovers. And Seascape was written by Tony Rushforth, and it was all about Port Erin, people meeting in Port Erin who were in the internment camp there. Wow. And it was about like two different sets of people. But and we actually won the festival with it.
I promise that she didn't tell me to say that.
No, I didn't.
No, I remember when I was doing productions, there was a period of time where service players would every year. It was the best actor, best actress winning production every year for a spell in the early 2000s.
We did have a good spell. We did have a good spell.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, but I the first thing that I ever directed, and it nearly killed me off for theatre altogether, was a play called Urge, and it was complete committee chosen and committee cast and then dumped on me. And it was the most horrendous experience, but we did end up with a play on the stage and an audience came. But the first one that I really enjoyed doing, and I don't know who had found this script, but we were all at a play reading one night, and somebody brought the script for bouncers and shakers, and we all fell around laughing, and I said, we have got to do this. It was the first time that we did it, because we've done it more than once, and that was in 1991. And it was just a brilliant cast. It was the right people at the right time, and it all just fell together. We had Stephen Palfreyman before he became famous. Chris and Howard, and Stephen Castle, and as one of the four waitresses, we had the lady who is about to become Deputy High Bailiff.
Indeed,
Rachel, yeah, she was in it, and Jackie and Gillian and Sarah.
You've directed for the Easter Festival as well, though, haven't you? You've had entries in that.
Yeah, I did. There was one year when we didn't have enough entries, full play entries, and I'd seen this script by Sue Townsend, who wrote The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged whatever he was, 13 and a half, was it? Something like that.
3/4, I think. Yeah.
And she'd written this play called 10 Tiny Fingers, 9 Tiny Toes. And basically what it was about was genetic selection for fetuses, for babies. If they weren't perfect, they were aborted.
The nice light topics that
Nice
we
light.
love to hear in Easter Festival.
Good festival fun at that.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually got the Adjudicators Award for directing that, which I was quite chuffed.
Yeah. I remember to this day, I was doing that. I actually played opposite Jackie Black in that, as I recall. And to this day, it's the only time I've ever had skis on my feet on the stage.
The fear of sliding down into the orchestra pit. But would you say, one of the other questions we've asked everyone that we've had on so far is, what would be your favourite production that you've done? Now, whether that's in the Easter Festival or the One Up Festival or not. And if not the same play, what play would you like to do again if you were to be able to be in it?
I have a favourite, and I've done it twice, so I was very lucky, and that was Avenue Q. And I loved it because it's actually very clever. The more you listen to it, the more you hear. It was a huge, massive new skill for me and most of the rest of the cast, puppeteering. And it's really tricky. It's really hard to get that right. And it was just one of those parts. I played Kate Munster and I just absolutely loved it. And then we did it again 4 years later. I don't think we'll be able to do it again. But if we did, I would do it all over again because that's definitely a favourite.
I'd have difficulty picking out a favourite, really. Having thought I'd completely retired from being on stage, I really enjoyed doing the place that I was dragged out of retirement to do. And it was great to do The Vicar of Dibley because it meant Emma and I were on stage together for the first time probably since Happiest Days.
I was going to say that. How often, obviously as mother and daughter, you actually
in Chorus of Disapproval, we were on together.
Oh yeah,
I think so. Yeah, briefly.
But that was great, and I played Mrs. Cropley, so the imagination ran riot with the awful sandwiches, and I was made, as this particular director usually makes somebody go out into the audience before curtain up, and I was going around with horrible sandwiches, trying to get people to eat these sandwiches. And it was the first play that the then new governor, not this governor, the one before, came to. And I'd gone around the audience with these awful sandwiches. I can't even remember what was in them, something like tuna and strawberry jam or something like that. And I'd done all the audience and I was getting bored, so I went out into the foyer, and as I walked into the foyer, the governor and his wife walked through the doors. And before our lovely director could get to them, I shot forward with this crate of sandwiches. Fortunately, they were Vicar of Dibley fans, and they twigged straight away, and they did not take a sandwich.
Shame.
And then Alex shot in and rescued them straight away. That was brilliant. So I've enjoyed those, but looking back over all the years, what I really enjoyed doing was Chorus of Disapproval, because we had some music in that, and Wendy McDowell was our musical director while he was in it, and so it had a lot of music from the Beggar's Opera in it, and I really enjoyed doing that because it was just that little bit different. It was great.
It was a big cast as well, really.
It was a big cast, yeah. It was a big cast. We had a lot more members in those days. It was pre, everything at the press of a button. It was live theatre was still appreciated.
I think what we found, so we had one of our future guests is going to be on Tony and Leia. Tony Eccles-Leia, they some more the musical side, and that's something that we've perhaps seen more of. That whilst drama is changing, it's the way in which people used to do the One Act Festival and the Easter Festival was very much more when Michael Lees was on talking to us. It was for foreign teams from across coming over to present, but perhaps people are just embracing theatre in different ways than perhaps in times gone by.
Yeah,
and I've seen Tony Eccles do lots of straight drama, and he's an amazing actor. It makes me sick that he's also that good at tap dancing and singing as well. I was in 42nd Street with him last year, and he is a triple threat. But yeah, I've seen him do plays as well, and he's amazing.
Well, maybe when he comes on, we'll get him to do a bit of tap. Always works on radio.
That's quite good. Get him on the desk. That would be a lovely thought. Just quickly, you've mentioned a couple of characters. You mentioned the likes of Wiley McDowell, and again, I know I've been lucky enough to likes of sort of Wiley, and any other names that sort of stick in your mind, Carole?
Well, Wiley and David. I mean, Wiley and David were in everything. David and Higgins. They were in the musical shows. They were in our plays. They were in everything, and they seemed to be in everything together. Certainly, service players. They always seemed to be cast together in the farces, which the wonderful Dr. Pycraft used to direct. And then, of course, there was my very best friend who came to live on the island during the years when I wasn't living on the island. And I met her actually when David inveigled me into doing Cat on the Fiddle. And that was the first time I met Jean Webb. And despite the fact that she's more than 20 years older than me, we just clicked. And for years, she was chairman, I was vice chairman of the service players. And we just, to me, there's nobody like Jean. And she's really missed.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm sure many people have heard her dulcet tones bellowing out, saying,
"Oh yes,
speak up."
Yeah.
Always used to scare the willies out of me.
Go to the back,
to the back, and say,
yeah, back row of the stalls, and she would yell.
Yeah, absolutely. But then she'd always be straight out if something went well and just tell you that was really good, you were excellent. Or she'd come straight with the bouquets as well as the brickbats. She said it as it was.
Yes, she did. She didn't mess about. And her way was the best. Her way was the best way, and that was that. You didn't mess with Jean.
I feel very fortunate that when Mum used to take me to rehearsals, I was just in the presence of all of those people who were all lovely. And Tony Hawks, I grew up watching Tony do all sorts of things and learnt a lot from him. And Jack Hampson as well.
Oh gosh, yes. God bless
yeah.
Jack.
And I remember Eva Caine too.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
And I'm just glad that I was associated and got to see them do their thing.
Me too. We could talk forever, unfortunately. I think our time is just about up for this podcast. Very quickly then, things looking forward to. You'd like to do Avenue Q again. You might do more straight drama. You might maybe a Vicar of Dibley.
I'd love to do more comedy. I know the Choral Union are doing Evita next year. So it's on my radar. I love Evita, but we'll see.
Yeah. And Carole, what's going to tempt you out of retirement again?
Well, I think perhaps a similar starring role like I had in Dick Barton, Special Agents, where I just sat at a table and drank. That was great.
Listen, it's lovely talking to you. We might have you back again. Thanks very much for talking to us on the Green Room podcast.
Thanks, Howard.